Leo, I suppose facing into another Champions Cup season, and it has to bring, I guess, memories flooding back of last year as well, getting that fourth star onto the shirt.
Yeah, it's always a challenge. You don't tend to look back that much in the business of sport. But yeah, no, we do have a lot of good memories from last year. They seem very distant now. You get so engrossed into the new season, new bunch of players, new competition that you compete against on a week to week basis. So yeah, no, we're pretty entrenched in the actual block of games that we're in at the moment. So um, it's just for us just trying to make little improvements all the time to our game, and what we can add and what we think is going to help us over the course of a season.
Has that been part of the challenge in the last few weeks as well? Just maybe integrating some of those Irish internationals back that have been coming back into training over the last few weeks as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like Leinster, it's not a new phenomenon for the group. So when there's a tour or a World Cup or a Lions tour or whatever happens at the start of a season affects, or sorry, the end of a probably a previous season affects the start of the next season. So yeah, we've guys that played a big part in the end of last season, and in Leinster's sort of knockout games, but then a lot of those guys went on tour to Australia as well. So it's important that they're managed well. But again, that posed a challenge in trying to integrate guys at different stages. So we've had our 4 games, we've picked up 3 wins, and it's just trying to accumulate as many points we possibly can. So another big challenge this week again against Connacht away, Munster back here at the Aviva the week after, and then we're into Europe.
Just having those two interprovincial games, you have two tricky encounters where you're probably going to have to balance your squad as well. Is that good preparation for going into the Champions Cup in early October?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, like there's always there's a lot clear focus with the players. They know it's at stake. They're coming up against their interprovincial rivals, so which leads into Europe and which leads into November internationals and selections for those squads. So yeah, there's a huge amount at stake for the players. This time last year I was just talking to Dan McFarland, like they're just back from South Africa. This time last year we were just back from South Africa as well. We faced into Edinburgh in round 5, which led us into the Munster game in round 6. But that was a great learning experience for us, that South Africa trip last year. But yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get a little bit better all the time. There's definitely a lot of things that we can still improve upon. So that's been our focus so far this year.
I'm sure last year when you went to the sports ground, Europe would have been on the mind in terms of the team selection and so on, but I'm sure you'd be keen to put in a much better performance than you did a few months ago down in Galway.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, a lot of things we didn't get right with our preparation going into that game, so that's been the main focus for us. So, if we prepare well, we have a good chance of performing better. The performance we were well and truly beaten by Connacht on the day. And yeah, no, it was tough. We watched, we actually took a look back at some of that footage, and you're trying to understand the reasons why we get beaten so heavily. So, but yeah, we know it's going to be a tough challenge for us.
Keane Healy said he almost felt a little bit disrespected by John Muldoon kicking the conversion at the end. Was that a feeling across the squad, or how did you feel about Muldoon having his moment on the day?
I wasn't really that aware of it, to tell you the truth. When you're in the coach's box down there, there's lots of bits going on. So yeah, it's not something we've discussed as a squad, at least anyway.
Yesterday, John Fogarty was saying as well, Sean O'Brien is chomping at the bit to get onto the pitch again. Are you hopeful next few weeks he can be integrated back into game time now again?
Yeah, he got through a good session yesterday. He did a bit last week as well. So we just want to make sure we're doing what's right by Sean. But yeah, he's not a million miles away now.
In terms of that, hunger in terms of players, I'm sure it's something you're trying to get across as a coach as well. Having been a player and a coach winning this competition, and you were there at a time when Leinster were going to, repeat finals and so on as well. Is that part of the challenge this year to try and keep them hungry and driven, or are they a very driven group anyway?
Oh, they're an unbelievably driven group. There's a good mix of ages. There's a lot of experience there. The guys have been through it and had the experience of success, and those guys just want to go on and do it again and know that they're potentially running out of years and the opportunities to actually go and do it. So, and then we've a younger group that are very ambitious as well. So, we need healthy competition in the group for us to progress. Just with the demands of the season, with players coming and going at different stages as well. So we need to be realistic. But yeah, the group are working hard at the moment, and everyone still is very ambitious to be successful.
Is that part of the challenge for you as well, given that in all likelihood for November internationals, a lot of your squad are going to be involved? Is that maybe part of the thinking when Joe Tamani came in as cover as well, just to have maybe an experienced head there to help some of the younger players in that period?
Yeah, no, definitely. We tried to produce a lot of homegrown talent, to coin a phrase. But yeah, some of the experience that we get in from outside. So Joe came in. He's a ton of experience, played for the Wallabies. The Brumbies is an environment that we would have a huge amount of respect for as well. So where he's come through there, and the coaches that he's worked with, and in more recent times with Montpellier as well, and some of the coaches he's worked with there. So he gives us that bit of versatility. So he played 11 through to 14, 12 and 13 as well. So during his stint in France, so that bit of coverage is important because we can't exactly predict who's going to be missing at various different stages. So to have some of that versatility, I think, is hugely important. Plus, Joe is unbelievably ambitious to improve himself as a player and be part of something special and successful as well. So, Felipe, from a coaching point of view as well, has been a really good acquisition for us. Just gives a slightly different point of view. He understands the Leinster system and what goes with that, but he's also had a huge amount of experience from his playing days in France and obviously at the international level as well, and in more recent times coaching in Argentina. So he's got a great rugby brain, so hopefully he'll be a good addition to some of our young players, because we want to be able to push through a lot of young players, and that's where the majority of the recruitment comes from.
I was just going to ask about Felipe. I mean, in many ways, you've just been delighted he took the call and decided to come across, because it could have got messy when Gervin decided to make his change. No coach wants to lose a member of their backroom team, but Felipe seems an ideal fit to come in and replace.
Yeah, no, he just carries on for some of the excellent work that Gervin has done over the last number of years. Gervin has come through the academy system, knew the players incredibly well, and it was a great opportunity for him to go to Bath and challenge himself in a different environment. But we've been very lucky with Felipe coming in.
And I suppose that's one of the challenges as well, whether that's players having to leave to spread their wings, whether that's Dempsey having to leave or Carberry. These are things that happen and things you probably just have to react to.
There's so many different things go on behind the scenes, we just want to make sure that we're creating an environment where the players can get better. They feel that they're going to improve, and they can be as good as they can possibly be. So we'll try and strive to achieve that.
I'm sure you'll give Gervin a very nice reception when Bath arrive for the Champions Cup as well.
Yeah, no, we talked about it at the time in a staff meeting when Gerv announced to the staff. We said we'd be destined to meet each other now in Europe, and that's the way it has panned out. So it's Bath have gone well in their first few games in the Premiership. Again, they're a club with lots of resources, very ambitious club and players. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us. It's a little bit down the track now. With Wasps coming to the RDS first, and then we have a tough trip to Toulouse as well. So it's going to be a very, very challenging pool for us.
How do you assess that pool? I know obviously in Europe you're not going to get an easy draw anyway, but what's your assessment of the draw as we get that bit closer to the actual action now?
Yeah, well, first of all, you're trying to get into the best seed you can to try and get the best chance of a good draw. Then you get drawn against 3 teams that have all won the European Cup or Champions Cup or some version of it over in the past. So Toulouse won it 4 times, Wasp twice, and Bath as well. So won it. So it's an unbelievably tough challenge for us. But again, it's very exciting as well.
And I'm sure as well you try and get as many points in that pool as possible, because as Leinster have shown over the last few years, if you can stay in Dublin like the Aviva who we're speaking here, it's a lot nicer than having to go down to the south of France potentially in the knockout game.
Yeah, no, definitely, and there's a little bit of luck involved with that as well in terms of the draw, particularly for the semi-finals. But you're just trying to control as much of the things that you control. We had an unbelievably tight win first up against Montpellier last year, where we get 5 points, whereas it didn't feel like that at the end of the game. It felt like we really, really scraped by. We had much better performance against Glasgow the week after. And so we were off and running with 10 points. We had 2 very, very tight games against Exeter, which could have gone either way, both of those games. So thankfully we came out just on top. And then when you get 4 wins on the board, then the motivation for some of the teams in the pool changes slightly. So We were potentially a little bit fortunate. So Glasgow made some changes when they came to Dublin, and then we were over in Montpellier, so we'd already qualified at that stage. So took some of the pressure off to a certain extent. But you want to control as many of the factors as you possibly can to give yourself best chance of playing a quarter-final or semi-final at home. So that'll definitely be the focus again. But it's a million miles away, those games at the moment, if you just think the way the structure of the competition, the blocks of two. So even at the moment I'm very focused on Connacht and Munster before we even can think about the two European games. So but it's a great challenge and a great block of games for us.
Yeah, because crucially, obviously, while Wasp will be on the mind somewhat, you don't want to go in the back of, say, a poor interprovincial performance or two going into that block of games in the Champions Cup.
Exactly, yeah. So just for us, it's, as I said at the start, it's just trying to improve week on week. We've played 4 games. Cardiff, we were lucky maybe to come away with a win. Scarlets, there was lots of good things in the performance, but mentally we struggled to stay connected in the game for the full 80 minutes. There was definite improvements over the last 2 weeks in terms of trying to address some of those mental lapses that we've had. But that's, again, it's a work in progress for all teams, I'm sure.
And Leo, are you happy with where your squad are coming into this part of the season now? Because a lot of the maybe fringe players had to start the pre-season, wait for the Irish internationals to come back. Is everything just coming together now as we go into a very important part of the year?
There's still lots of bits we can get better at, as I said. But yeah, the backroom team work incredibly hard in terms of trying to manage the players, manage their time, manage their integration into the group, to get back to playing. So we're heading in a reasonably positive direction, but as we all know, that can change very, very quickly off the back of a couple of performances. So for us, it's just trying to focus on how we can get better.
And given you've got the 3 out of 4 so far, Scarlet's the only drop points, and even after that performance, you've reacted very well with the 2 home games since.
It's good to get back to winning ways at the RDS, and as we know, it's going to be a very, very different challenge down the sports ground this week, and we'll try and focus on putting in a better performance than last year, because we were quite a bit off that day, and the scoreline blows out quite quickly, as you saw. So then we'll be back here for Munster, which is usually a fairly good spectacle. So and something that the supporters have taken on, and it's made it an unbelievably special thing to be part of for us as well, players first and foremost, but coaches as well.
On a very final note, before we talk to him, Johnny Sexton picked as your captain this summer. Was he an obvious choice to follow on from Issa?
Yeah, no, definitely. The main thing is where Johnny's got such demands on him, so I want to make sure it was set up that he's able to give the best account of himself. But yeah, he's been fantastic in the role so far this year. He's still incredibly driven, wants to achieve so much, wants Leinster to get better, wants to still improve himself as a player, and that rubs off on everybody else. So players and coaches alike, and he demands high standards of everyone around him, but he demands those high standards of himself first and foremost. So he's been excellent so far.
Leo, the very best of luck in the Champions Cup.
Thank you.